Welcome back. You're listening to Home Wizards. I'm Cindy Dole.
I'm Eric Stromer.
And we love to help improve your home and improve your life, especially with so much coming up with the holidays. Thought we'd talk about a way to take some of the, anxiety out, and that's when you're entertaining to have a potluck.
Well, and also the burden off of an individual who's decided to host a party.
Yeah, it's right.
It's too much to do.
And there was an art to even hosting a potluck. So I thought we could talk about organizing one, because it's all about making sure you don't have 10 taco casseroles.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Even though taco casserole doesn't sound very Christmassy, it might work because you're kind of burnt out on things. But, you want to have variety.
That's right.
So
how do you do it? What do you do? You assign a bunch of different things to a bunch of different people, but there's a structured way to do it.
And it starts with once you figure out that you are the one, it's going to be at the Stromer house, or it's going to be at Cindy's house. You figure out, okay, how many people are you going to have? And now when you figure that number, you make the list of every group or family who is invited. So that way, once you have the list of every group, rather than individual, right? Because it's unlikely that a husband and wife will bring separate dishes.
Right.
So you want to ask the couple, you know what I mean, or the family or the group.
Right. So, for example, say you have 40 people.
Right.
You're going to say to 10 of them, I want you guys to be the entree group, and each of them will ask.
You're the entourage.
You're the entourage with the entrees. And you ask maybe 8 or 10 members to bring an entree dish that'll serve at least 10.
Perfect.
And then you're going to be kind of good, so people will have seconds available to them, so that everyone's going to bring maybe a fish dish or a meat dish and chicken and poultry, all
salads, veggies, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I like the idea of assigning each category to a color of paper.
Well, that's a good idea.
Because then as you do this, and you can do this online, of course, right? Or maybe use a different font, whatever, but the idea is to separate the different groups and the different categories of food with color, because then you're going to use that for the invitation. And then when the invitation comes back, you're going to keep everything straight.
Right.
You'll know, that person is the lasagna person, or this family is the salad.
Yeah, and then maybe you'd want to ask 5 members to bring 2 side dishes each that it would serve at least 8 or 10.
Nice.
And then that'll kind of cover your vegetarians, too. I find, too, as we also learned through the Thanksgiving holiday, that a lot of times the side dishes are the most exciting part of the meal anyway, so a vegetarian would get their needs met generally from a great side dish that's a vegetable entree.
Yeah, or the chocoholic. I mean, I definitely want to accommodate the chocoholic, because otherwise they can get really angry.
They do. They get bitter. They get bitter. No pun intended. Yeah.
No, just kidding. In fact, in a minute, I'm going to share with you my chocolate tree recipe.
Oh, can't wait.
So those are things you can do. Keep the cost to a minimum. Pastas and casserole entrees are easier to serve at the buffet. Punch is going to be easier to make. And also, speaking of fluids, assign certain people. You're in charge of the coffee. You're in charge of the punch.
Right.
Or maybe you're even in charge of the bread. Like maybe have one person bring a couple dozen of rolls.
And you always don't forget the butter. There's nothing worse than bread without butter. Except I like the olive oil too.
Olive oil?
But bring one of those.
Yeah. And then maybe someone is in charge of not only the hot beverage, the coffee or the cocoa, but maybe someone is in charge of the hot mulled cider, right? And then the dessert. 4 people can bring the dessert depending on the size of your crowd. So kind of some fun things.
And then everybody should talk amongst themselves too. Obviously, you don't want to get, like we said before, 23 pumpkin pies and that's it. A little bit of variety. Maybe one family could bring some fruit.
Yep.
A couple of pies here and there. Maybe a cake, cookies. You're good to go.
So what to bring? I know that you have some great Stromer recipes. Give us some ideas, some of your traditions.
I gotta tell you, the thing that I love doing every Christmas, we've been doing this since I met my wife, and it's an old Christmas cookie recipe from the great Dorothy Shermer, who I'm not supposed to say. That's my wife's grandmother, actually. It's amazing. So they're very simple, and the dough is as follows.
And what are they called? They're just called
They're
Christmas?
just called the Christmas butter
Christmas
cookies.
butter cookies.
Yeah. And you make them.
And they're German, right?
They're German. They're straight out of
So there's butter. There's tons of butter.
Oh, my goodness. And it doesn't hurt if you make them while you're wearing lederhosen.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Little papa.
One of those big tall hats,
okay.
With the big, like the Ricola commercial.
Nice.
But anyway, they're very simple to
braids.
make.
I could wear braids and do that thing.
You could.
The St. Pauli girl kind of thing.
That's right.
Okay.
And it doesn't hurt either to have a St. Pauli girl while you're making the Christmas cookies. Anyway, the recipe is very simple. It's a cup of butter.
Cup of butter.
It's 1.5 cups of sugar, a 1/4 cup of cold water, 1 teaspoon of baking soda dissolved in the water, 1 egg, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 4 cups of flour sifted. And so you just combine all those ingredients in the order that we just talked about, and you refrigerate that for about a half an hour. And then you just roll it out on a countertop. And if you don't have a rolling pin, like we talked about, you can use a wine bottle. But just make sure you put some flour on the counter so that, it'll move around. And then you get your molds, and you can, create any shape that you want by cutting them out. And then every time you cut out and there's left over, then you roll it back into a ball and roll it out again, and then cut them again. Now, here's the catch, though. If you want to have them just plain, they're absolutely delicious. But if you put the frosting on them, they can be colorful, decorative, and gorgeous, and as creative as you can come up with. So here's the frosting. It's 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. It's a dash of salt, teaspoon of vanilla, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, and 2 tablespoons of evaporated milk or cream. And then you can get those sprinkles, and you can have little, buttons on your characters.
How many calories do we have per cookie?
The dough part itself is probably not so bad.
It's the frosting?
It's the frosting. But man, when it comes to Christmas cookies, you throw calories out the window. Well, but they're delicious. I promise you will love them. We'll have them on our website, yourhomewizards.com.
How long do you cook it? Is it?
Usually you cook probably about 9 to 10 minutes.
Oh, that's fast.
You got to watch them closely because they can turn on you. They can get very, very overdone quickly.
So let me share a recipe that I have. And as you can see, this is a cookie recipe that's still on the original paper in my handwriting. I think it was maybe for 4th or 5th grade.
It looks flowery and like it's really great handwriting. Look how easy you can read it.
It's full of optimism.
Yeah. Unlike your bitter handwriting right now that you have.
I know. It's like, remember when you first were learning handwriting?
Yes.
And this is lined paper. I mean, you really took so much time doing,
I don't really write by hand very often anymore. When I do, I feel like I'm relearning it.
Oh, I bet you have great handwriting.
Oh, no, it's terrible.
Really?
It looks like a doctor's prescription.
Yeah, my signature's pretty bad, too. Well, anyway, this is I guess in the day, I had really good handwriting, and it's called the Pfeffernuss. The Pfeffernuss. And it's kind of like your family recipe. You got the butter. It's a cup of butter again, although here it said you could use margarine. Yeah. You have powdered sugar. All right. Okay. And then a little bit of flour, vanilla, and then walnuts chopped up. And that's basically it. And you make little balls, and then you roll it.
Wait, are these the ones that you sprinkle the powdered sugar on?
Yeah, so you're rolling. It's all in there, and it's got the chopped walnuts with the butter and the powdered sugar. And they're very simple, and they're on. You put it on wax paper and foil, and you cook it at 325 for about 10 minutes. Done. And they're buttery and flaky, and then you have sugar like all over your mouth.
I know what you mean.
And then all you need is a nice cold glass of milk,
or a piping hot cup of coffee.
And then this one is also in my dad's original handwriting, and I love this. This was my aunt's traditional cinnamon nuts, and you being a nut guy, I think you'd like this. It's basically walnuts, and it's so super easy. You get out some wax paper or foil, and you're going to have sugar and cinnamon, and then some of that carnation condensed milk with some water, a little bit of vanilla, and then 1.5 cups of the walnut halves, and you basically just mix all that stuff and you coat them. You just coat them, and you let it sit, and then you put it in the oven for a little bit, and you're done. It just kind of seals them, and then you can keep it in a nice little Tupperware container throughout the entire holiday season. It's fun just to put out in a little candy dish.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
You know what I do, too?
What's that?
This thing called Critter Crunch.
Cute for the kids.
And it only takes about 20 minutes or so. So check it out. It's 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of reduced calorie butter. Well, I'm sorry. I used to use margarine, but I don't use margarine anymore. So I would say 3 tablespoons of regular butter, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a cup and a half of those animal-shaped crackers.
Yum.
Okay, do those.
Like the animal, the Barnum and Bailey's
you can
animal.
You could do that. Yeah. You got a cup and a half of honey-flavored bear-shaped graham crackers.
Yum.
You know those little guys?
Cute.
Yeah. And then a cup and a half of crispy like rice cereal squares. That kind of
so you get the salty and the sweet.
There you go. Yeah. And then a cup and a half of whole grain toasted oats cereal.
Yum.
And then you get a cup of tiny unsalted pretzels.
Unsalted.
Unsalted,
okay.
yeah.
Yum.
And then 1 cup of bite-sized whole wheat cereal biscuits with raisins.
Nice.
Okay. And you combine all that, right? You soften the butter up until it melts up, and then you mix it with all that stuff that we just talked about.
Nice little coating.
Put it in a baking dish. And then you just bake it 350 for 20 minutes, stir it occasionally, and when you're done, you know what you have?
You have a little munchie.
Oh, no. It's something that's mooey. Delicioso. That's right.
And that you can again store that through the holidays in a baggie.
Yeah, you can put that in a glass jar.
And the kids
they go
they
crazy
love
for
it.
Yeah, they do.
Because it's like, who doesn't love cereal? I would always love in the middle of the night waking up, and I think it was Captain Crunch or Cocoa Puffs, and that was like a candy to me, having just cereal.
Right.
No?
I
Yes?
used to sit and look at the box and like stare at the imagery on it because I thought it was so cool.
All the colors.
Captain Crunch, Tony the Tiger, all that stuff. Right, loved it. And then the prizes in the cereal. Remember, they don't really
Yes.
do that anymore.
Well, I don't know.
Do they put the
I
prizes
don't
in?
pay attention to it. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have prizes. I don't think.
Okay. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about some more ideas for the holidays. How about staying green, doing things that are not so much in excess, right? Giving things.
There's a fair amount of waste in the Christmas holiday, isn't there? Yeah.
There's some things you can
do. A lot of wrapping
do.
paper, all sorts of
and
stuff.
especially
we can
for cutting
save
back on your budget, you can be very giving and loving without spending a dime. So we're going to talk about that. Home Wizards, Eric Stromer, Cindy Dole. We're back after this on KFWB News Talk 980.
Have a holly jolly Christmas. It's the best time of the year.